Incorruptibility is considered a remarkable mystery within the Catholic and Orthodox Christian traditions. It refers to the miraculous preservation of the body that does not decay or decompose after death. This is not the same as ordinary mummification or artificial preservation. The so-called incorrupt bodies often emit a sweet fragrance known as the odor of sanctity or order of sanctity. Within these faiths, an incorrupt body is often considered proof of a person's holiness, a holy testimony to his sacred way of life while he was still living in the world. But before we start that, if you're new to our channel, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always be updated with videos like this. Saint Bernadette. Saint Bernadette, who was born as Bernadette. Bernadette, of faith, lived in a life full of deep faith, simplicity, and extraordinary visions. She came from a poor family, so even as a child, she helped as a caretaker of animals. In February 1858, while doing one of her chores near a grotto in Massville, Bernadette reported seeing a lady dressed in white, with a blue sash and a golden rose on her feet. Over the next 5 months, she experienced a total of 18 apparitions of the mysterious lady whom she called a Caro. Later, the lady introduced herself with the words, "I am the Immaculate Conception." There is truly a lot of theology in this statement, because that doctrine was only formally declared by Pope Pius in 1854, something that Bernadette did not know because of her limited education. Because of these apparitions, people flocked to the site, with some believing and others doubting. The lady also instructed her to dig in a particular part of the grotto, where an unknown spring was discovered. The water from this spring was associated with miraculous healings, making Lourdes one of the most visited pilgrimage sites in the world. Although this brought great significance to Lourdes in the Christian world, it also brought tremendous challenges to Bernadette's personal life. Nevertheless, she remained steadfast in her faith and entered the convent of the Sisters of Charity in Nevers in the 21st century. She lived there with humility, service, and prayer until her death at the age of 35 in 1879. Her remains were exhumed several times as part of the canonization process, and many were astonished that her body remained incorrupt and showed almost no signs of decay. Even today, visitors to the chapel of Saint Bernadette in Nevers can see her body inside a crystal coffin, peaceful in appearance and almost lifelike. The rosary she holds, which has oxidized, serves as proof of the passage of time, further highlighting the preserved state of her body. Saint Bernadette of Lourdes remains a symbol of faith, miracles, and divine grace in the Catholic Church. Saint John Mary Vianney. Born in 1786 in Dardilly, France, the life of Saint John Mary Vianney toward holiness was shaped by simplicity and truly profound spirituality. He grew up during the time of the French Revolution when religious persecution was widespread. Despite this, his family remained devout and instilled in him a strong faith and a desire to serve God. It was truly not easy for Vianney to enter the seminary. He struggled a lot with his studies, especially with Latin, and he almost wasn't able to become a priest. But because of his evident holiness and determination, he was allowed to be ordained as a priest in 1815. He was assigned to the small and spiritually cold parish of Ars, where most of the people were far from their faith. And instead of losing heart, he became even more passionate about his mission. He performed his duties with great enthusiasm, and his sermons, full of emotion, touched the hearts of many and gradually brought back the faith of the community. He was not just preaching, he often spent 12 to 16 hours in the confessional, guiding souls back to God. He also became known for miracles and prophecies, which made even more people come to Ars. By 1855, almost 20,000 pilgrims were coming there every year to see the humble priest. Vianney was also truly known for his great self-sacrifice. He often deprived himself of food and sleep, living on boiled potatoes and getting only a few hours of rest each night. For him, these sacrifices were a way to draw closer to God and to pray for his parishioners. He passed away in 1859, leaving behind a great legacy of spirituality and transformation. The Catholic Church recognized his extraordinary life, beatified him in 1905, canonized him in 1925, and declared him the patron saint of parish priests. When it comes to the condition of his body after death, Vianney, like other saints, showed a remarkable sign. His body remained incorrupt, resisting the natural process of decay. Enclosed in a glass reliquary at the Basilica of Ars, Vianney appears peaceful, as if merely sleeping. For the thousands who visit Ars, his body serves as proof of his holiness and the sacred mystery of faith. Through St. John Mary Vianney, the Church continues to celebrate the life-changing power brought by steadfast faith and devotion. Saint Teresa Margarita. Born as Anna Maria Redi in 1747 in Arezzo, Italy, Saint Teresa Margarita came from a noble family. However, the luxury of nobility was overshadowed by her deep spiritual devotion. From childhood, her contemplative disposition was already noticeable. She was often immersed in meditation and quietly seeking the meaning of God. Even as a child, she liked to speak to herself as if trying to understand the divine presence. Inside the convent, she wholeheartedly embraced the life of the Carmelite order. She lived its spirit, especially its rule of suffering and silence. More than just being a disciple, she herself became a living example of the spirituality of life. Her deep devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus became the center of her daily life, and her reverence for the Virgin of Carmel was unwavering. For her, the Sacred Heart symbolizes eternal divine love, while the Virgin of Carmel represents gracious mercy and protection. She often entered deep ecstasy or trance, which, although a testament to her close relationship with God, also affected her health. Her body gradually weakened, but her spirit remained strong. Teresa Margarita passed away at the young age of 22, leaving behind a legacy of deep devotion and holiness. The process of her canonization shed light on her holiness, and she was later declared blessed. In 1929, she was declared blessed, and in 1934, she was fully canonized as a saint. Her body was exhumed as part of the canonization process, and it was found to be in a state of decay. At present, her preserved body lies in a glass coffin. To those who look at her, she appears like a thin person sleeping while holding a cross, a symbol of her strong faith. For many, Saint Teresa Margarita remains a beacon of divine love and unwavering devotion. Her incorrupt body, in contrast to her frailness, speaks of the mysteries of faith and the rewards of true devotion. Saint Vincent de Paul. In the history of the Catholic Church, there are truly few as radiant as Saint Vincent de Paul, a man whose life was completely dedicated to compassion and service. Born in 1581 in Puy, France, His Holiness did not give any indication of the great legacy he would leave behind. After completing his studies in theology, he was ordained as a priest at the age of 19, beginning an extraordinary spiritual journey. The 17th century in France was a time of cultural prosperity. However, it was also marked by religious fervor and social inequality. Amidst these differences, Saint Vincent discovered his true mission: to serve the poor and those on the margins of society. He saw the deep gap between the rich and the poor. So he started various charitable works, which became the standard for organized assistance. In 1625, he founded the Congregation of the Mission, also known as the Vincentians or Lazarists. The purpose of this congregation was to spread the gospel in rural areas and to train priests so that even the most remote places would have spiritual guidance. But he did not only address spiritual needs. He also saw the severe suffering of the poor, especially the victims of war, so he took concrete steps to ease their suffering. His kindness was not limited to France either. With a perspective that went beyond national borders, he organized missions to faraway places like Madagascar, proving his global response to the call of the gospel. One of his most remarkable contributions was the founding of the Daughters of Charity in 1633, together with Saint Louise de Marillac. This group, composed mainly of women from ordinary families, was revolutionary in their time. Instead of staying confined in the convent, they actively went out into the community to directly care for the sick and the poor. They became the early models of modern caregiving or nursing and set an example of concrete love for others. For many more religious congregations, her final resting place in Paris became a site of deep reverence. When her body was exhumed about a century after her death, it was discovered to be incorrupt, resisting the natural process of decay. At present, the preserved body of Saint Vincent de Paul can be seen inside a glass coffin at the chapel of the Mother House of the Daughters of Charity in Paris. His incorrupt body remains a powerful symbol of selfless service and steadfast faith. Saint Silvan. Among the many saints venerated in the Catholic Church, Saint Silvan is a mysterious figure shrouded in the mysteries of history. While most saints have detailed records of their lives and miracles, the veneration of Silvan comes from the scant information about him and the extraordinary condition of his remains. Some surviving records suggest that he lived during the early days of Christianity, a time full of persecution. Back then, being a Christian required great courage because it could lead to ridicule, social exclusion, or even death. Despite this, Silvan chose to follow the teachings of Christ, a decision that led to his martyrdom. And although the exact details of his death are unclear, it is believed that he offered his life because of his strong faith. Even though there are only a few records about his life, he received much attention after his death. In a remarkable violation of the natural process of decay, his body remained incorrupt in the Lord of Megget for 1,600 years, one of the most well-known examples of incorruptibility in the Church. His body is placed in a glass reliquary and dressed in the red tunic that is commonly worn by martyrs. The sight is striking. He does not look like an ancient relic, but rather like a silent witness frozen in time, connecting early Christianity to the present. The significance of his incorrupt body is truly beyond measure. In a time when even the very existence of Christianity was in question, martyrs like Silvan served as beacons of hope and courage for the faithful. For many, his incorrupt body is proof of his holiness and the truth of his sacrifice. Today, his resting place is visited by both devotees and the curious. For believers, this is a tangible connection to the ancient church and a silent testament to the sacrifices made for the faith. For skeptics and historians, it is a mystery that challenges our understanding, biology, and the passage of time. In the vast history of Christianity, Saint Silvan may seem like just a small part compared to the more well-known saints. However, his preserved body and the mystery surrounding it continue to inspire awe and reverence through the centuries. Saint Veronica Monica Giuliani. In the colorful history of Christian saints, Saint Veronica Giuliani left behind a story that combined unwavering holiness and profound mystical experiences. She was born as Ursula Giuliani in 1660 in Mercatello, Italy. Her unique devotion was clear even at a young age. Although she sometimes showed the playfulness common among children, her life was gradually shaped towards deeper spirituality and a desire to enter religious life. In response to her perceived divine calling, she entered the Capuchin for classes in Sita di Castello and wholeheartedly embraced the life of a nun. In the quiet and secluded world of the convent, she took the name Veronica and began a spiritual journey filled with both holy ecstasies and intense suffering. Because of her devotions, which often led to ecstasies and visions, she became known as a mystic with a unique reputation within her enclosed world. At the center of her mystical experiences were revelations about the Passion of Christ. She described vivid visions of Jesus' sufferings, and these did not remain only on the spiritual level. These took on a physical form in her body, especially through the stigmata, the wounds resembling those Christ received during the crucifixion. These extraordinary events, along with her deep spiritual knowledge, attracted attention. There were those who supported her and those who doubted her. So she underwent thorough investigation by church authorities, and eventually, the sincerity of her holiness and the authenticity of her experiences were recognized. She was declared blessed in 1804 and canonized as a saint in 1839. Her life and the miracles attributed to her after her death proved the unique grace of God bestowed upon her. At present, her incorrupt body can be seen at the monastery of Sita di Castello, a silent testimony to her holiness. Among Christian mystics, the story of Saint Veronica Giuliani stands out not only because of the intensity of her spiritual experiences, but also because of their physical manifestations, a reminder to the faithful of the profound mystery of faith and the connection between body and spirit. Saint Sita. In the heart of Tuscany, the city of Lucca gave rise to a saint whose legacy is marked by simplicity, devotion, and miraculous stories. Saint Sita was born in 1218 in Monte to a poor but devout family. She did not live in luxury, wealth, or engage in grand theological works. Her holiness blossomed through heartfelt kindness and faith in everyday life. At the age of 12, she entered service as a maid for the Vianney family in Lucca, and for nearly 50 years, she diligently served as a domestic servant. But it was not just her diligence at work that made her stand out. What truly set Sita apart was her ability to turn every simple task into a holy act. For her, serving was not just a job, but an act of devotion to God. She often said that she served two masters, the Vianney family and God. Although her days were full of work, she devoted her nights and any free moment to prayer and charity. Luca became known for his kindness. He often gave his own food and clothes to those in greater need, trusting that God would take care of him. In a well-known story, he secretly took bread from his master's house to give to the poor. But when he was questioned, the bread miraculously turned into roses. His story did not end with his death. When his body was exhumed after many centuries, it was discovered to be unusually preserved, not completely decayed but mummified. For many, this was proof of his purity and holiness. Today, his remains can be seen at the Basilica di San Frederiano in Lucca, resting in a glass reliquary as a symbol of devotion and love. The life of Saint Sita is a reminder that holiness is not only for theologians, bishops, or martyrs. Through simple goodness, diligence, and charity, even a humble servant can leave an indelible mark on history. Saint Juan Bosco, let's go! Among the saints who lived in the 19th century, Saint Juan Bosco stands out not as a mystic or a martyr, but as a teacher and a beacon of hope for the youth. Born in 1815 in Becce, Italy, he grew up during a time when society was being transformed by the Industrial Revolution. Because of rapid urbanization, many young people were neglected, unable to go to school, and easily drawn into crime. Bosco saw the great need to guide these young people, so he dedicated his life to their welfare. He had a natural ability to understand and connect with young people. He used innovative methods and taught more than just ordinary education. His method, which later became known as the preventive system, focused on love rather than punishment, understanding rather than reprimand. He believed that hearts are changed more through kindness, reason, and faith. In 1859, to expand his mission, he founded the Salesian Society. It was named after Saint Francis de Sales, who was known for his kindness and loving disposition. The Salesians focused on the education and upliftment of young boys, especially those who were poor and neglected. Later on, together with Maria Domenica Mazzarello, he also founded the Institute of the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians to address the needs of young girls. Under his leadership, the movement grew rapidly, establishing schools, oratories, and workshops not only in Italy, but also in different parts of the world. He did not only teach knowledge, he also shaped responsible individuals with strong moral convictions. When Bosco passed away in 1888, he left behind a legacy that went beyond his time. The Catholic Church recognized his immense contribution, and he was canonized as a saint in 1934. But the mystery about him did not end there. When his remains were examined, it was discovered that his body had not decayed. At present, his body lies in a basilica in Turin, visited by countless devotees who recognize him. He is known as the protector of the youth. The life of St. John Bosco is a model of dedication and love. In a changing world, he became a guide for countless young people towards light and purpose. Through his teachings, the Salesian legacy, and his incorrupt body, he continues to inspire and remind us of how great an influence one person can have on humanity.